Well, I recently visited a lovely old market town in North Essex of Great Dunmow, and I found this lovely coffee shop, Meadow Hill. It's a lovely environment to have a cake, coffee. You can start with breakfast, mid-morning coffee, lunches, afternoon teas, lovely arrangements of cakes, and they also do a selection of delis, so that's very interesting. There's the lovely afternoon cream tea. A great team working for them, and there's the owner, Caroline, and there's one of my paintings. So I've decided to use the frontage of the shop as my next subject. Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Just returned from a lovely trip to Great Dunmow in the heart of North Essex, and really enjoyed that trip and visited a lovely little coffee shop, a Hill Meadow coffee shop in the high street. Now I'm going to show you how I produce the frontage of this coffee shop. Quite often you go out to these lovely little villages, and the frontages of shops can be particularly interesting. Sometimes you have to make adjustments when you've got cars or you've got people, figures, but that's the view on the screen. I'm going to make a pencil sketch, so I'll show you a little bit through that, then I'll produce the painting. So I hope you enjoy the video. Good. Well, the first thing we need to do is to get a drawing down onto the sketching pad before we start filling in. Well, as you can see, I'm gradually adding features. I've added a little bit of seating at the front. I've actually closed that door. Maybe I'll open it during the painting process, but we'll see how we go. I'm just producing the windows really now. Good, we're getting there. That seems to be coming along quite well. Now we've got a ridge tile, the basic shape really for the building. We've got a lovely black surround again for the door. There is a handle there, so I'm trying to leave a bit of white. We've got a nice deep undercut there, and this is nice and dark again. Get the wall down there. Buildings running out are not of any real consequence, although you can just suggest a window. There's a lovely long window on that, another small window there going out of picture, but that's there again, not of any real consequence to us. That's looking quite good. I don't think there's too much more before we look at shadow work. Well, I'm going to use for the shadow work a medium wash. I'm going to have the light coming from the left, I think, because that would be nice to cast. Although, thinking about it, from the left. Yep. Okay, yep. Let's have light from the left. So consequently, we need shadow on the side of that building there. So that is all got to be shaded in nicely. And notice I'm not turning the pencil, because that way I'm getting a nice flat on the pencil. Lovely. Now, under the gutter, always a lovely place to have shadows. Really brings the whole thing into life, really, I think. Lovely. Now, under the gutter, always a lovely place to have shadows. Really brings the whole thing into life, really, I think. A little bit of an angle there. Really have a deep shadow, shall we? Nice deep shadow running along there. And you will notice that once you put these shadows in, a bit down across the top of the window, down the left hand side, down the left hand side, across the top, down the left hand side, across the top, and all of a sudden you've got a bit of depth to those windows. That's fine. Now I'm going to put a figure on the seat here, so that's sitting on that seat there, like that, and the other figure is going to sit here. Make the head small to start with, because there you go, a couple of figures on the seats. Like that. That one could be looking on the phone. Look, head down, and what have we got on the table? All sorts of little bits and bobs, nothing too descriptive, but got some little bits and bobs on there. Okay, well, I've actually done a little bit more to the windows, hardened everything up with that dark wash. Nothing much more to do, really, I don't think. Just a little bit under the sash windows there. These are white, but I'm putting them in darker just so they show, really. A little bit of colouring there. So the next thing I need to do is to take my brush that's got water inside and just release air and just allow air into the brush itself, the hairs of the brush, and away we go. And all you do is just soften areas up, and it really gives a lovely, I think, a lovely sort of smooth watercolour effect. It also fixes the actual graphite, which is always a useful thing to do. Now we'll do the shading under the roofing there, cuts back in under the gutter. That's a nice clean line there. Down the left across the top, down the left across the top of these windows, because they are slightly recessed, so that brings it all to life. And also the doors, very dark on the outer edges, so get some nice dark tones there. Also that window has some little bits and pieces going on inside. Well, let's just do the step there, a little bit of a step, good. And then we have the overhang of that window there, like that, and the edging there that's black, and of course the sill, that box there. Then we have the door frames that are very dark. Just pull that down there like that, and of course, but the windows are a little bit lighter, so we need to allow that to show. There we are, look at that, it's even showing the gutter, the lovely, put that line in there, the letterbox up very nicely. Good, nice little step on the front. And then under where the figures sit, the back and the seats of, or in the table, that needs to be highlighted. That figure there, a little bit of shadow there, and that figure's looking down, as I said, probably at the phone, as you do. That's like that. And these windows, nice to have a little bit of detail in the windows, particularly a big window like that. It's going to be a nice subject actually. There's always more in a subject once you start to paint and look at it. The more you look, the more you see. The main thing is you don't see too much, because that can also be a disadvantage. There's the shadow shading for that. Oh, there's a bit of shadow underneath the sill. Let's just pick up on that if we can. A little bit of pargeting on the frontage, so not a bad idea to show a little bit of aging to this lovely old building, which is of course what we've got. A little bit of pargeting there. Oh, there's a cross section there. Name there, just put that like that. Then let's have, there is a curb area which stands up quite nicely like that, before we get to the road that's a little darker. And that's not a bad idea to help show the difference between the path and the road. And we wipe that graphite in like that and stand up those little sections of the paving like that. And there's also, which is good to show perspective, some markings in the paving slabs. Look at that. See how they gradually slide out to give perspective? See those lines there? Just to help give perspective. And if you spot these sorts of things, all helps to really make a lovely subject. Well, I pulled in just a little bit closer just to explain the composition. The main subject being the figures and that window, you know, the focal point. Nice bit of light coming from the left. We've got some lovely areas of windows, and the main coffee shop is the focal point, obviously, as the main feature with the figures and the window. And may have a figure walking there. May not be a bad idea, but we'll see how we go on that as we come to paint. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that little quick show of how I've produced a outline pencil sketch before starting the painting. Just going to sign it, as you do, a Colinsteedart pencil sketch in graphite pencil. Well, there's the palette, mixing area, 3 brushes and arrangements of paints, normal colours, burnt sienna, raw sienna, cadmium yellow, Windsor blue, that'd be red shade, cobalt blue, ultramarine, cadmium red. I've got a lemon there, yellow. There is Winsor & Newton Artist Quality Payne's Grey, alizarin crimson, Indian red, burnt sienna, light red, and cadmium lemon. Obviously I won't be using all of those today. As I say, just the 3 brushes, simple little rigger, a number 7 Rosemary & Co. Kalinsky sable, and a Daler-Rowney pointed mop brush. Good, well, I'm going to use the mop brush first. I'm going to completely damp that, completely get that thoroughly damp, and I'm going to use Windsor blue for the sky. Just straightforward Windsor blue. Plenty of water in the mix. Going to have sun coming from the left, so we'll start off on the right hand side there, and we'll paint as far as the roof lines like that. Make certain that you do the same to the other side of the chimney, so it's not too the tone and the colour doesn't change too much. And then we just pick along the roof like that, down into that area, and then continue across there, and this time picking up a little bit more colour, but a little water's going in there as well. And there you go. Just keep it nice and clean, nice clean washes. Apply the paint freely and loosely. Allow it to lay onto the paper. Make certain you hold that line there, a little bit of perspective. Can you see how there's a bit of perspective there? Good. Clean the brush. Now, an overall wash. Now, it is white, but slightly creamy white. And I'm going to use, I want a bit of warmth to it. So I'm going to use a very weak light red and raw sienna. Very, very weak. No blue in there. Make certain you've got just purely the raw sienna and the light red. Okay. Now, where do we put this? Well, that's a good question. Let's put it over the frontage first. Front of the building like that. And we need to give this building some age. Go over the windows as well. And to give it age means that it mustn't be too cleanly painted. So we're going to leave some white paper. Look at that. Have a bit of fun with this colour. There we are. Then we're going to do the pavement. Give it something to sit on. Bit of burnt umber gone in there for the pavement. Not too much. Don't want to be too dark too early. And paint that along. Just like that. Curb I'm going to leave white at this stage. And we do have bits of pink in there, so I'm going to add a little bit of light red here and there. And there is some stones, so some paving slabs, so I've tried to give a bit of a change of tone to that. And then I'm going to add the Windsor blue to that for the road. It's come up a little bit green, just add a little bit more red in there. Oh, there we are. And the road is slightly darker than the pavement. And there again, a little bit of perspective gone in there. Now I'm going to paint the roof line. We do have a ridge tile on that. And that ridge tile is going to be light red. Make certain that you pop them ridge tiles in fairly quickly, fairly uneven. It's an old building, as I say. It's got to be shown as an old building. Doesn't matter if we get a bit of bleed up into the... See where I've got a bit of bleed up into the sky? I don't mind that at all. Then I'm going to use light red. No, then I'm going to use Indian red with Windsor blue. And that's going to give me my slate colour. And it hitting a bit of light, so we're going to paint that in like that. Leaving a bit of white paper. And then we paint across and down. Bring a bit of that ridge tile in. Look at that. Always have a bit of fun with your colours. Don't get bogged down in painting everything as you see it. It's always nice to have a bit of movement to these old buildings. Buildings do stand still, but it's nice to have a bit of movement. Well, I call it movement. It's ageing, really. Buildings do move with their age. Now I'm going to paint the windows. Now I'm going to use very weak Winsor blue. That one window there, pane of glass on the first floor, is actually reflecting the sky. There we are. It needs to be allowed to dry completely. Now I'm going to clean that brush. That's the big brush mainly used. Now I'm going to use the number 7 Colinsteedart sable, and I'm going to paint the chimneys. Now these are going to be cadmium red with burnt umber, and the reason I'm using those two colours because we've got a very brilliant red, and the burnt umber just knocks it back a bit. And then we paint that chimney there. Let's do the shadow side first. There we are. Shadow side first. There and there. Then add a little more water, a little bit more red, just to make it lighter and yet warmer. And that is going to be flicked down for the frontage of the chimney. That's the sunlit area. There we are. Perfect. Got to keep light onto these subjects. Good, that's looking good. Using a bit of light grey, I'm just going to paint that brickwork there because that's in full sunlight. That across there is going to be a similar colour but still very light. That's a tiled roof again, grey tiles. That's a brick building, so we're going to paint that in a very dark colour. I'm going to use burnt umber with Winsor blue, because this is going to be really dark. And I'm getting this in fairly soon. Well, it is very, very soon. In fact, it's going straight in now. That'll be a brick colour eventually, but I'm going in very dark with that because that's in shadow. And I'm going, the frontage of that building is pink, so that means it's going to be a little bit of that orangey colour, because you can just see the edge of that building there, building that comes through, and then we just blend that through into it, just let it run round. That's good. Okay, now into that, while it's still damp, add your light red. Lovely feeling of lights and lovely feeling of tone there, of sunlight in the on the building. Look at that, see the way you've got a feeling of light within the shadow area. Right, this is grey as well, so let's paint that in grey. That's grey brickwork. Not making too much of these buildings either side. They're not really that relevant to the overall picture, so they're going to be treated fairly low key. Now I'm going to use Winsor blue and Indian red for this window. There is just a bit of reflection there, something going on inside. I'm not going to show too much. It's just something in the window there, and that can all be added to at a later date. Let's go right up to the top with that. They are nice and dark. Take off a little bit of colour now, and now I'm going to paint just the undersides of that. There we are. That's good. Yep, quite happy with that. It's all coming along quite nicely. Let's do a little bit of the windows. There we go. Those windows are attended to. That's looking good. Now this is typically a green. Greens are the colour for this particular coffee shop, so we do have some yellows in there, but let's pick out the green symbol on the frontage there, like that. And it's got to be a little darker than that, so let's add a little more stronger colour for some of the areas on there, and also for this, like that. That's that little plaque. I'm not going to put all the writing on there. It's not something that I would do normally, so we'll leave that. Good. Now, mustn't forget this. While we do have that colour, I'm going to paint the sign as well. Meadow Hill. Well, gradually building it up. That's all you do. Little bits at a time. See which way you're going. See where you're going. Okay, now let's deal with this window. Now I'm going to leave the figures till later. In that window we have a variety of colours. There's all sorts of things on the sill areas here, so we're putting in some little colours. Going to add a little bit of yellow to that to create a green. Don't want too much interest, but we need a little. Then I'm going to use Windsor blue and Indian red for the glazing, leaving the white section for the cross sections of the window frame. There we go. And then into that goes, while it's still damp, leaving some little touches unpainted. There. There we are. Always nice to have a little bit of colour there. I'm going to put some red in there later, but at this stage we'll just stick with, these sort of pictures, you have to have an interest in reflections to paint them. They don't have to be precise. That is the key to it, really. And I'm going to put a bit of red in there, so I'm going to use a little bit of the cadmium red. Always a nice idea, drop a bit of red in here and there, particularly where the greens are. Little touches up the top. There you go, and that gives a lovely sort of interest to that window. Right, now the inside of that door, change brush again, use a slightly larger brush. I'm going to use Indian red with Windsor blue, and I'm starting off with quite a lot of blue in there. And this door is open, so there's something going on inside. It's always nice when you get these sorts of subjects if you have the door ajar, because it gives the viewer a thought of wanting to go inside. It's not completely blanked off. That's good. Now I'm going to come down the left hand side with that dark colour, gradually tapering off. Then I'm going to clean the brush, and to that mix I'm going to use cadmium red, and I'm just going to bring that through and allow that to bleed down into it. There we are. And that gives a feeling of light entering that door frame. Lovely way of achieving a door opening. Now I'm going to do the windows. I'm going to do the doors first. It's like a porch area. They're very black, very dark. So we're going to paint down there like that. And this one is going to be a little narrow because we can see inside the reveal. And then we have a step across there. And we have that lovely black, dark black edging that lots of these buildings have, like the old damp course, I would presume. And we have that coming underneath there as well. So that's interesting. Like that. And we'll show a bit there. Show another little bit there. A little bit there. Tell you what we'll do. We'll weaken that and spread that right through. So it's very weak. There we are. Just takes off the... doesn't take away from the figures then. We can put those in. Good. Now I'm going to paint the surround. Let's just get that there. Surround of that window there. The top of the dark area, like a little porch area really above the windows and doors. Then I'm going to paint the dark down there, but I'm going to leave a white edge so we can see the difference between yeah. And then just draw it across very quickly because we have a step there. We need to show that. Brilliant. That's fine. Now I'm going to add just a tad more water to paint the door itself like that, leaving the glazing. Got glazing panels there, glazed panels on the doors, and the reason that's offset is because it sits back into the recess, quite a deep recess that. And this one's going to be the same. Don't want to make this too dark because we need to see that against the white. Well, it's got a letterbox. Let's put that in as well. Don't forget perspective. Door goes in, so it runs into the opening. Right, now I'm going to change back to the rigger because I'm looking to paint in the very dark window surrounds. Let's do the first floor. There, 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 and the sill. Up. And we're going to do there, 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 and the sill. Sill extends either side. Notice how it's bleeding up into the window, isn't it lovely? Across the top, down the left, down the right, and the sill. Across the top, down the left, down the right, and the sill. Look at that. It's as simple as that. Keep it simple. That's the art of watercolour painting. Now I'm going to paint in the support for the plate that holds the sign, like that. That'll have a shadow shortly. Now we're going to pick up a bit of green, so add to that mix, add a little bit of cadmium yellow, because I want to paint in the lovely little chairs, little seats. Seats are not that difficult to get to come off, actually. Then we have the table. Doesn't have anything on there, which is fine. We have the cross sections that run down like that. That's it. Don't want to be too fussy. Once you get really fussy with this sort of thing, then unfortunately you end up putting in too much. And once you lay in too much, then never quite works. Don't play with it. It's all it's the viewer really that makes up the mind what they can see and what they can't. Right, I'm going to paint the figures in first. One is going to be quite a warm figure, quite red, cadmium yellow, and cadmium red, and that's going to be that figure there. And presumably they're on their mobile phone, which is not unusual these days. There we are. Clean the brush. I'm going to have a blue one then. It's going to be ultramarine blue, and that figure will sit there. They're reading the paper. It's interesting. So they're sitting on a chair like that. Good. Then we're using just a dark colour again. Put a bit of ultramarine in there for the legs as they sit out. That's it. That's perfect. And may as well have this one the same. Not making too much of these figures. There we go. Look at that. Right, one's going to have blonde hair. Raw sienna. That's that one. And the face is going to be a touch of burnt sienna. There we are. And the other one's going to be dark brown hair, burnt umber. Oh, it's going to have a hat. Oh, and it's going to have long hair. It's just bleed down into the jacket. That's nice. Whip a bit of that away. There we are. And then just sweep across the base so we don't need to put feet in. Now, although these windows are white framed, I'm going to just put in just a hint that we can see the actual framework itself. Because as I say, they are white, but we need to show a little bit of artistic license sometimes, and that's there like that, which is yeah, more or less what I would have suggested. Right, now we're going to paint in the shadow work, and we shall be pretty much there, I think. Now I'm going to use ultramarine and alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson for my shadows. Now it does seem a funny mix, but bear with me. Let's see how we get on. So we're going to paint that across there like that, down, using the large brush for this. Want a nice sort of wash of colour, nice clean wash of colour. That's it. And we're going to just put a tad of that just down there, just to give that a bit of interest. Then we have a shadow running up the roof like that. Well, and this shadow gives you a nice sort of warm feel. There, down that back edge like that. There we are. Lovely warm shadow. And let's do this one first. Onto the roof, of course. That then runs up the roof. Lovely sort of, it's a nice shadow colour. That, ideal for these types of subjects. Okay, now we go under the gutter and we just sweep that across in one fell swoop, like that. We go down the left hand side of the window, like that, because of the window reveal. We go down inside the door, like that, and across. We go just inside that area there. Now, that would then cast at that angle. I'm assuming we would get a shadow on the door running across at that angle. Should work. Yep, allow that to completely dry. And then under there, that's not really got any reveal. Oh, just down there and under there. Oh, and of course under the sills, always a nice place to put shadows. And of course on the ends, because that's where they would form, the shadows would form. Good. And just a touch under the base of that, like that. We've got the casting shadow that you would see from the sign, like that. That's pretty good. At an angle, forget to pick up that angle, that sign would cast. But of course that would be in shadow too, apart from the thickness of it. There we go. Then we have one or two little touches under there, under the seat, under the lip of the seat. Just one or two little bits and pieces here and there. Maybe some little pots and bits and bobs on the table. That's not a bad way of showing a bottle or something on the table there. That's good. Under the arm. All necessary shadows can go in this colour. And that really does bring the complete picture to life, particularly when you go underneath the table and chairs. Gives a lovely sort of sense of interest, which and of course they would shadow up the wall a touch like that. That's it. and that would shadow up the wall a touch like that. That's it. And then we go across there like that, across there like that, across the back of the wall there. That's good. Yep, quite happy with that. And then we have a casting shadow from across the road like that. And down that wall. Where is that from? No idea. Do we care? Not really. Just allow that to dry. Now, something that I do quite often when I'm painting these lovely little studies, I put in some finishing touches with burnt umber and a bit of cadmium, particularly areas that will show foreground perspective. And to me, everything points to the window and perhaps that figure. So that's these are the lines that you would get from the paving slabs. And just flick them in like that, and cross sections. Just a suggestion. No need to get all bogged down with anything. Then of course this same colour can be used to sharpen up some areas around the ridge tile. Yep, quite often we get some little dark patches in the sunny areas of the ridge tile like that, and flashing areas along the base there of the chimney. And there is just a little extra bit of ridging on that chimney there and there, just to give interest, and that cuts back there like that. Yep, just fill that in. There we are. Just like a bit of flashing really around the base of the chimney. Then I'm going to flick in little tops on the ridge tile. Notice how I'm only doing where it's in sunlight. Same there. The shadow areas I think I should probably leave unpainted. So no detail in the shadow areas, just really where the ridge tiles and everything else is. Good. We can then quickly run a bit of this dark colour down there just to enhance that shadow, and under the window area like that, while it's still damp, down that back edge, across the top, down the back edge, across the top. Bit of warmth in that shadow. Just flick it in. Don't be too neat. No sense in being too neat. Area there. Then, of course, we have some really dark stuff that is the tiles themselves that have quite uneven finish like that. There we go. And just the odd little hint that we do have some tiling like that, the odd little line here and there. Do a little bit more there. Don't do too much to this. And there again, it's perspective again that you can pick up on these tiles. Don't make them too large. There we are, look at that. a real light, interesting subject that that really comes to life once you start putting in your details, really. Just going to paint those in, those sections again, just to give a bit more interest in the window, like that. Yeah, got a funny feeling that that is pretty much all we need to do. There is the sign there, so I'm putting in the darker colour to denote the hill, the Meadow Hill sign. But apart from that, we'll allow that to completely dry. Well, there you have it. I've taken the surround off completely around the edge to give it an edging, and it just needs signing. I'm going to sign it bottom right hand corner here with quite dark paint with my rigger, so that denotes who actually painted that subject. So that's Meadow Hill Coffee Shop in the heart of the Essex countryside, Great Dunmow. It's a coffee shop and deli. Lovely little place to visit. Great Dunmow, lovely market town, lovely old market town, and to have a something to eat and drink in the heart of the village is a real treat. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that. If you have, please subscribe. Click on the link bottom right hand corner, this one here, and you will receive notifications when I upload more videos. And why not have a go at this one? It's a lovely little study. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you all again very, very soon.